Everyone, it's Adrienne here. Welcome to this week. I am offering chapter 3 of a short video series that I started just a couple weeks ago called Building the Bridge. So welcome. Today I'm offering you chapter 3, and I think it's going to be called Failure to See. At least that's the working title for right now. But if you missed the introduction or you missed chapter 1 or chapter 2, I'll put all those links in the description of this video so you can catch up if you want to with the previous creations I've shared. So I've just been sharing each week a personal vignette from this moment in time in history that's unfolding. We get so used to, living life and acting like everything's normal. We forget that we're in a unfolding wave of historical significance. And there's times in history where we get woken up to that in ways that perhaps, at least I should say, that I haven't been able to get a grip on the significance of what's happening and my position in it as a human being. And really all of our individual experiences that make up the collective. So this is our lives are deeply individual, but they're also undeniably collective because they make up our whole experience and we're connected through consciousness. So we're having our own experience, but there's also a global, let's say, I'm going to say transformation that's happening. It's continuing to unfold. All of life is a transformation. And that's why sometimes it seems so silly and I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying when people say, and I've said it before, that I'm a transformational coach because all of life is just transforming from one state to the next. It's alive, it's fluid. Life is pouring through us. It's transforming, it's shifting and changing. Although we might not notice the subtleties of it, it's just like a fish in water, right? Like what's water, right? And so this video series that I'm doing is an invitation to look at your own individual experience, and I'm hoping that I can offer some inspiration for what you're going through at this moment, or some solidarity and some connection, because a lot of people are unsure. There's a lot of things up in the air. We're going through an unprecedented historical shift in how we see the world, our values are shifting. And I would say they already have. It's just the systems take a while to catch up. And so things look chaotic, they look scary. People are stressed on every level because it's fluid, it's moving, things are moving. So today the topic is, I'm just going to mute my phone. I'm sorry, I should have done that before I hopped on. Today, the topic that I wanted to share with you in this chapter this week is, around this divide between what we've been told or what we are told or shown by the world, and then how that is in contrast to our own lived, felt experience, and the divide between those two things. And how do we bridge that gap? And that's really been my journey for most of my life. I might not have called it that. I have called it lots of things. I've called it, building the bridge. I've called it connecting spirit and matter. When I was in academia, I called it, subjective and objective perspectives. So it's the same topic, different vocabulary. And so last night I had a dream about this divide. It came to me in my dream as like a geological fracture in the earth, and it was like a divide between a river that was at the root was one time one, and then it veered off, it divided, the river was split, let's say. And it wasn't real clear if it was a river or was a earth expression, like the earth was together and then it cracked and then the water came up, but you get the idea. That was the imagery that came up in my dream last night. And so this theme of having this life stream be divided and fragmented, and what happened with our own the dispersion of our own energy. It affects how we show up in the world, and the work that we do and how we do our work. And I feel like, people are really struggling to maintain system that is not nourishing. It's not supporting the highest expression of our vitality and our wellness. So today I'm going to share with you my experience with that. And I'd love to hear about yours. If anything resonates or rings a bell, or in the comments, I'd love to hear about what's going on for you. But today I'm just going to offer a few reflections and insights on what I've called in previous chapters regarding this change around perspective. And you can call it a shift in the lenses that we're looking through. And this is how the world around us impacts us. And at times it seems like very subtle or minute, but taken on scale, it's really the way we've organized our world is directly impacting how we focus our life energy. That may not necessarily be organically in our best interest. So I'm hoping that through my story today, you can see how I have been navigating this in my everyday lived experience and how that applies to you and how you've been navigating and trying to work through this. Because I think that a lot of times we think that we're alone, that we're isolated, and that we're working through things that other people can't relate to. And I don't think that's true. I think all of us have some version of our own unique version of what's happening right now. Like this car outside my window honking. I don't know if you could hear that, but it was quite loud. It actually startled me. So my apologies. So as I mentioned, the dream that I had about this divide, and then at the root, and then also what I've referred to in past videos around this theme of perspective, and that the symbol of eyes or pairs of eyes have been coming up in my recent readings. And I've been sitting with this representation of perception, and it's really an energetic signature. Like I can feel it in my body. It's a knowing. Oh, I got it. And for me, it really pointed to this manufactured perception in the world through the media, through social media, and to the reality that many human eyes, the world's eyes, are being pointed at a screen that's in front of them. And if you're watching me right now, you're watching me through a screen. And that is a particular historical fact and how that is shaping our perception. And this could be seen that in contrast to our perception to the world unmediated through an unfiltered medium of a screen, let's say. And it's just this felt embodied experience that is lived, and it's in us, it's information, it's organic intelligence, the original intelligence, let's say. And it's a physiological feedback system. And this feedback system has been intercepted or redirected through AI or our computer screens or our social media. So we're being flooded, our systems, our nervous systems are being flooded with images that are artificial, because when you look out in the world, that's not how we experience the world, through 30-second snippets of decontextualized, curated images. So philosophers have written about this created veneer that we have over our lived embodied experience, and this conflict between the two that is almost imperceptible unless it isn't. So when our senses are captured by an outside source, a lot of times they override our own internal promptings, our own internal information that is in service of life and health and our interrelatedness and our connectedness, and instead create something else: disconnection, disassociation. And none of what's happening right now is unexpected or surprising, because it's been happening for some time, but yet it's still surprising. the effect of it. And we can imagine how this change is actually really affecting us, and that we are actually perhaps living in another way than we actually want to or imagine for ourselves as being our best and healthiest way of living. And I've been, as I said, working on this theme for a long time. And over 25 years ago, I did my master's. I was trying to work this out between the material world and then the conceptual world, and the conflict between the two, especially as a woman in a woman's body, being of Latina heritage, and also, European heritage, and the mainstream narrative, and then it never quite fit. And there's like this gap. And I always thought, maybe something's the matter with me, that I don't fit in the worldview that everyone's going, that everyone's agreed to. And so I wrote my master's thesis to try to make sense of this for myself and what I was experiencing, this dichotomy, living in two worlds, and nobody seeming to notice or acknowledge it. So I didn't have the language for it, and I didn't want to use a vocabulary that was alternative or quote unquote spiritual, because I wanted an authoritative place that would acknowledge my experience. And so that's what took me to academia, because quote unquote, it offered me a legitimate platform for my experience, where I hoped I could answer these questions that I had grown up inside of, and that they would be taken seriously and they would be acknowledged, and I would find the truth. So in my thesis, I took on this exploration of cultural identity, the construction of identity, and how we create cultural value system together, and how this relates to different people of different race and different ethnicity and different nationalities, and how it excludes people and marginalizes some people. And I always thought, that just felt in my gut that was not natural. It didn't feel right to me. And so it was in regards to trying to make sense of this in quote unquote the post-colonial society that we live in. But I don't really like that term, because I don't really believe that we are in a post-colonial society. We are to some degree, because while countries may not officially be colonializing different countries, we have more of a multinational corporations doing this, where you have 5 big companies, let's say, that own all the other brands. And so you might have one corporation that has, 15 different smaller companies underneath it. So this is what I'm referring to as post-colonial. But it follows the same pattern as colonialism. If we follow, the areas of the world that are having, conflict or war currently, you'll most likely find that there's some sort of outside economic interest in that particular region of the world. It's a system, and it follows the same pattern. And some people claim that it's related to the economic system of capitalism. But whatever you want to call it, I guess what I wanted to share with you is that culture, whether it's codified in an economic system or a political system or an institution or an educational system, is a pattern of organizing and orientating to life energy that has been agreed upon, whether it was conscious or unconscious. It's a belief system, and that belief system is a sort of a mythology which propels or props up a sense of self, a sense of nationality, a sense of groupthink, let's say. And then it becomes, or it's actually embedded or reflected in our laws, as I mentioned, and all the systems that we have. So once we become conscious, more and more conscious of it, I should say, then we begin to realize, maybe I have, that life is not happening there. There's no it's not independent of our perception. Life is actually an outcome of our perception and our worldviews and our participation in those. Not like a capital R reality, but a co-created reality that a lot of us didn't give our consent about because we were never actually officially asked if we wanted to participate in it. And so it becomes like this big monstrosity of this system that is faceless and it's too big to take accountability for itself. So we are, to a large degree, creating what we see, whether unconsciously or consciously, but we are disconnected from it. We're disempowered from it. We're disassociated from it. So it's difficult to make the connection that what we're doing right now has impact. Who we are and how we show up in the world has impact. And you could say that the system depends upon this disconnection to continue to work on autopilot and to reproduce itself, the methods of reproduction. And so I've been feeling this and experiencing this unfolding for years in my life, this shift. And as I mentioned in the introduction, all these threads in my life are coming together for reevaluation. And for all of us, really, we are being asked, what do we really value in this country? Because in the United States policies and behaviors, of course, affect the entire world, just like all countries do. But America has had a large influence. It has dominated policy for many, many years, economic, political, all of the things, right? All of the things. So we're being drawn back to this idea. They call it the American dream, but it's American mythology, like this mythology that we've had that is framed the way that we look at things, our position in the world, and this version of reality that we've had, this way of relating to energy, to distribution of energy. You can see it in the unprecedented economic inequality that we see in the world, where 1% of the people own 90% of the resources. And so this isn't sustainable. Many young adults who are smart and educated and motivated can't make a living wage or can't afford to live at the level that their parents did. And we're at a time where this is unsettling itself. The system is unsettling itself because everyday people are trying to just survive, let alone thrive and do well. So there's a quiet but powerful transition happening, and not so quiet at times. But I think it's all the way down to that origin point that I was speaking about. That's related to value, and at the symbol of value in our world is money. So we have been trained to want to be, to dream to be billionaires and millionaires, and now that seems very silly to some degree and kind of empty, because we realize that if we don't build a healthy, just society where everyone's needs are met, then that money is really kind of wasteful. And the shutdown that COVID produced kind of started to accelerate this shift. As a lot of people left their office jobs and started working from home, a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, all this time I thought that I had to drive to work every day, spend that time away from my family and that gas and that money, driving an hour and back to work every day. So all these cracks started to emerge. And then, children having to stay home. And you might know that I was a teacher for 17 years, and I left just before COVID hit. So I didn't realize it at the time. I think it was a kind of precognition. Although my decision wasn't sudden, it'd been happening for some time. But it was a collection of events where I saw that this system that I was participating in was no longer aligned with my values and really my health. So I wanted to share with you some of the main reasons why I left and what I've learned since. as I hit the 5-year anniversary of leaving the teaching profession and moving into working as a mindfulness educator and some somatic practitioner and an integrative healing coach. And so yeah, there's 5 main reasons looking back now in hindsight. And really, this was a product of one of my friends asking me, how did I leave the 3D world? How did I decide to make the jump? And how did I have the confidence, wherewithal to carry it out? So that's what I'm going to share with you.